Welcome to the Startup Funding Espresso. I'm Halti Martin, where we talk about how to raise funding and invest in startups and the time it takes to drink an espresso. If you have a question about startup funding or investing, please go to the website, startupfundingespresso.com, and type in your question into the chat bot in the lower right corner to receive an answer. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, this is Halti Martin with the Startup Funding Espresso, your daily shot at startup funding and investing. There are different paths of commercialization. These paths include startups and licensing. Founders license the technology from the source and then establish a company to create a product to sell for a profit. Startup requires a team to build, sell, and support the product. Startup typically needs to raise funding from grants and later private investors to fund the early stages of the business. There must be a market for the product and the company must be able to sell it in order to succeed. Licensing takes the technology and packages it into a format that can be implemented into other products by third parties. The user pays a royalty to the owner of the technology for its use. Licensing requires the intellectual property to have awarded patents but can also include trade secrets. A licensing agreement defines the scope of the license as well as the financial and legal conditions. The advantage of a licensing is that it typically does not require funding to build and sell the technology. The disadvantage is that it captures less revenue than a startup would. Consider these paths for your technology. Thank you for joining us for the Startup Funding Espresso, where we help startups and investors connect for funding. Let's go start us into today. Halti Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.